And we're on. Hey guys, what's up? Maik Wiedenbach here. And it is close to Christmas. I'm done. Like, walking around Bloomingdale's before Christmas, it's a nightmare. I cannot wait. Like, haven't you heard of Amazon? Why can't they shop there? Like, why do I have to come here? So let's get on with today's questions. The first question is, Mike, do you like the reverse pyramid? I do not. I don't like any pyramid for bodybuilding. And the reason is that the pyramid training style, especially in the bro scene, is too broad. So let's say somebody, hey, who is in Frankfurt? So somebody will say like, okay, you bench 200 pounds, whatever. So you start with 100 and then you do 120 and 140 and 160 and so on and so forth. So, you know, so that is way too broad. Like, you gotta imagine, like, in another sport, let's say you're a runner, okay? And your coach tells you, okay, guys, today we're doing marathon speed, 5K speed, 1500 meter speed, and 100 meter dash speed, all in one workout. Hey, Lucy, like, you're gonna be like, what? Which one are we doing, okay? So a pyramid should be, Poliquin has said it had to be 12% only, like as a spread, not 40 or so. So, I mean, 12 is probably a bit of an arbitrary number, but you really have to pick your range you want to train in. Otherwise, you become some sort of a weird Chinese store where you buy everything and nothing works, okay? So if you're training in such a broad weight range where you're training at 40% of your max and then at 50 and at 60 and so on and so forth, then your nervous system just gets confused and nothing will actually stick, okay? So what you can do is you split it by weeks. Like, so let's say for, like, you know, 1 week you train in the 80 and 85 and 90% range and so on and so forth. But you cannot do it all in one workout. So the pyramid as such is useless. So the way I would approach it, let's say, I don't know, you're doing incline bench. So my incline bench on a good day is like whatever, 330, 4 reps, okay? So I get a couple field flies into one of my pecs, some tricep press downs, and then I would start working pretty much immediately, like in the 225 range or so, and then stick around the high range where I belong, okay? As opposed to, you know, training such a broad range, okay? The next question was, what about trap training and so on and so forth? So traps being here, right? So my clients don't train upper traps. Hey John, for 2 reasons. So first of all, most people are overdeveloped here as it is, okay? Hey Justin, because we do this, okay? So the last thing people need is more development here. They're already so tight, resulting in headaches and migraines and so on and so forth. So that's why I can upper trap training. Now, the lower and medial traps, they're often undeveloped, which gives you this sort of weird hunched forward physique. So that's where your reverse shrugs come in, where you would just be grabbing, let's say, a lat pull down, and you just pull the shoulders down, just like so, right? Now, if you are, let's say, a wrestler or whatever, and you need the traps to be developed, there's basically 3 aspects. I mean, if you see people doing shrugs, you'd think it's some sort of like epileptic fish on ecstasy they got thrown on land. Okay? They're using like 6 plays. Okay, so first of all, tension matters. So you're actually better off using dumbbells because then you can get that slight lean forward. You should also do shrugs where you are laying on a bench and you just basically shrug up like so, okay? And then reverse shrugs. So you should train all 3 aspects. Like, personally, I think for bodybuilding, athletically, it's not a good look. Like, it makes people sloped and look narrow. So, but you know, that's just me. So that's my take on shrugs. The next question is, what to do if my insertions are low? I guess this person meant high. So what does this mean? So every muscle inserts somewhere, right? So the lower the muscle inserts, the more real estate you have to grow it. So in my very own sad case, my biceps, see this? I can put like 2 fingers in here, okay? Phil Heath biceps probably insert here. No matter what I do, I will not have a great bicep peak. Not gonna happen. No matter what I eat, what I train, what kind of drugs I would take, it's not happening, okay? So everybody has muscles that have sucky insertions. There's nothing you can do. What you do is you train those muscles, listen very carefully, 4 to 5 times a week. Whoa, I'm gonna be overtraining. Okay, let me ask you this. For most people, the muscles they don't grow a lot are calves, for instance, right? Unless you are a shepherd or some sort of like runner that delivers messages, you don't work your calves at all during the day. So there's no need for you to not train them 4 to 5 times a week. The same with my biceps. Like I don't do anything physically outside my workout. I mean, I give people numbers, but my arms can recover, okay? So small muscles where you lagging behind, they can be trained with frequency. So what you do is you maximize the real estate you have, right? So my arms will just never be huge, okay? But you make them as big as you can, and then you make them lean. So a lean arm or calf or whatever will look bigger than a calf that is actually bigger but chubbier, okay? So you cannot change your insertions. It's just not gonna happen unless you rupture the muscle and surgically reattach it lower, but that would probably be not a good idea either, okay? So if the insertions are low, what you do is you up the frequency and you make the most out of it, okay? So when people tell me like I can't grow my calves, often what they do is they do one very good and very difficult calf workout a week, but that's it. Well, that's not enough, okay? You have to train them 4 times a week. Next question, what do I have? You guys can type questions in also. Should you train when sore? Yes, we had that already. Sore is not injured. How much cardio should I do? It's a broad question. So, no, John, I get to your question. How much cardio should you do? Well, that depends, right? Do you want to run the New York City Marathon? You should probably do a lot of cardio. So let's say you're just a guy who, you know, like everyone else wants to be like bigger, leaner, and so on and so forth. So cardio, you know, is not the magic fat burner that people think. It burns a few calories, but that's about it. So cardio mainly assists in recovery and digestion after the workout. So for that 20 minutes will do just fine, 3 times a week. If excessive leanness is your goal, you probably have to do a bit more. But in terms of overall cardiovascular health, I was just reading a study that showed that weightlifting reduces the risk of heart attack also just as well as cardio. I mean, assuming you're not that guy that does a set and then does, the Instagram 8-minute layover work, post the set and then does another set. But if you move at a reasonable pace, you will be okay. So 20 minutes of cardio is perfectly fine. There are no fat burning zones, get that out of your head. The body doesn't say like, oh, I'm over here, I need to burn more fat. It's all on a weekly tangent, like how much have you done, how many calories have you eaten, how many have you burned. That's all that matters. So what to do about coming back from a long layoff? Yeah, that sucks. So I think the first thing I would do is I would change gyms, okay? I would not go back to my old gym where I was last 6 months ago, because there's probably a reason I quit there. Okay, maybe I didn't like it subconsciously, maybe didn't like the people or whatever else, right? So I switched gyms, okay? And then, you have to suck it up. You start at rock bottom, whole body workouts, I would literally do one thing for the back, one thing for pressing, and one thing for the legs, go home. Do that for maybe 2 weeks, then up a set and so on and so forth, until I work my way up. You cannot go be like, okay, now I'm back, I'm doing 5 times a week, rock and roll. That's not gonna work, okay? You're just gonna burn yourself out. So the best way to stick with things is to have success. So basically you would be starting with 3 times 20 minutes a week, and then you do 3 times 30 minutes, and you start losing weight, you start feeling better, and then from there on, you feel like you're going somewhere. Whereas if you are picking up where you left off when you were in better shape, you're just going to demoralize yourself, And then sometimes it's helpful to switch gyms, before kids, I had gym memberships pretty much all over the city, but now your time is more of a constraint. So I think that's what I would do. And then my old coach always has the first workout back really sucks. You just have to get over with, okay? It's not going to be elegant, it's not going to be great, just do it and be done with it, And then, people are so self-centered, nobody cares what you do or what you look like in the gym, so it's just move on from there. how long should a set be? That's a good question. I think the bigger question is like the quality of the set, right? So there's a couple of components to it. So like you can have a very long set, but it's completely useless by just throwing the weights around. So there's a couple of things. You must have the weight under control. So let's say you're doing a row, be coming out and only flexing, until you flex the pecs, the antagonist, not all the way, and then you're pulling back until about here. You wouldn't like whip or so you would never lose tension, because if you have a set that's like on paper 2 minutes long, I'm making this up, but you only get tension here and here and here, then that set is actually just really short, maybe 10 seconds, right? Whereas if the tension is constant, then that set would be like 40-50 seconds, which is where you would actually make some gains. So you'll be striving for mechanical failure, as opposed to just adding reps, So a good way to think about it is like, okay, so I'm training, whatever, my bicep. So I'm flexing my tricep, and now I have maximum length, and now I'm curling up here without losing the tension, meaning I'm working my insertion and my origin to come together, right? But only one of them can move. So the moment I move both, I'm shooting from a canoe, and it's not gonna work. So I wouldn't be so focused on like timing my sets, but like what did I do during the set, right? It's a kind of like quality, as opposed to, okay, I did this set, but what did it actually do? So for instance, if I do a set of bent over rows where I constantly change my angle, then I'm using my lats a little bit, and then my mid back, and then my traps in the very end, right? So now I have worked out, but once again, I'm the Chinese store. I have worked out everything a little bit, but nothing really. It wasn't enough to grow my traps. It wasn't enough to do anything for my lats, and then, the years go by or the months go by and I'm not improving my physique. And that's just very sad. How long should you bulk? That's a good question. So we must differentiate. Bulking natural versus enhanced. So people that are enhanced, they can bulk longer. The reason being drugs, and that's twofold. So during the bulk, they can use things like growth hormone and insulin, which allows them to eat more food, more carbohydrates, and still stay lean because they shuttle all that food into the muscle, right? They also have more testosterone, which then helps to build more muscle and then store glycogen there. By the same token, when they cut calories, they can also be more aggressive because, again, they have drugs that will help them to keep the muscle even though their food intake is restricted. Now, as a natural, you don't have those advantages, which means if you go over a certain body fat percentage, your body becomes ineffective in terms of building muscle, so you just keep getting fatter. So the rule of thumb for guys is always like, you must have some resemblance of abs. If you lose your abs, you're not really building that much muscle anymore. So nobody can tell you when that is and when this will happen. However, if you don't start out your bulk very lean, it's just going to be a disaster as a natural guy. Because what ends up happening is you're going to bulk, and then you're going to have to cut so hard that because you don't have the chemical assistance, you will lose all the muscle and you end up where you started. It happened to me basically. So after my first show, I decided, okay, I'm not big enough. Yes, it applies for women also, that rule. I'm not big enough. I need to put on weight. So I bulked from 215 to 250. I was pretty strong, but I was fat. And then I cut down, and in the end, come that winter, I was again like 215ish, again like a pound or two in the whole year. That could have been avoided. So that, was just a waste. You should not compare yourself to other people. You will get depressed. Why? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. So that just fits with the overall, like, everybody gets a participation medal in our society, and people say, oh, just do this for yourself. It's like, how are you going to get better? Okay? So imagine, like, if Apple said tomorrow, we're not going to worry about the market anymore, we're just going to make what we like. So, in any sport, people aspire to greatness. So when you're building a physique, you should look at people who are good at this, okay? So, you have to be realistic as to, like, your bone structure and, the drug use of certain people and that sort of thing. So, like, I realized, for instance, that with my bone structure, like, I have these small joints, I will just not look like Arnold or, Marcel Zombatti or Dornier, or these mass monsters, So I always wanted to look like Bob Harris or Frank Zane. And, obviously I'm not there, but I'm making a point that through the inspiration of looking up to those guys and constantly measuring myself against them, I have gotten further than I would have if I had just looked into the mirror and be like, I'm awesome, I look so good, I got this. Because it doesn't help you, okay? You pack in yourself as sort of like a cotton ball, and then you get the social media likes and be like, yeah, you look so good. It's like, you don't actually, you're just like in this tiny fishbowl. So I think comparison, but more in the sense of inspiration, does make sense. That was another question. Then, can training help with depression? Yeah. So there's a couple things. So depression, especially this time of the year. So the first thing you got to do is lose the stigma, okay? So like what other people think or do, like who cares, okay? Depression is a real thing, it's not invented, it's not in your head. It is in your head, but it's not you making this up. It is a chemical imbalance, that's it, okay? So there's obviously ways to treat it. So if you have somebody tells you like you should just pull it together or you should suck it up, then, whatever. So, but you must take action. So there's a couple of things. So you obviously should seek qualified help if you're, really depressed. You should definitely take vitamin D3, especially if you live in the Northeast. And you should watch your sleep patterns. So that's tricky because like some people sleep a lot when they're depressed, some people sleep very little. So you shouldn't sleep 2 hours, but you shouldn't sleep 20 hours either, so you need to have a schedule. You need to check your food, especially for cravings, because cravings will give you short-term happiness, but long-term misery. So like no matter how depressed you are, that you just can't give in. Like if you're craving sweets, there's this new thing out that's called pineapple. It's pretty cool and pretty sweet. I recommend that. And then you must train. You must do something. Okay, it doesn't. I think it should be bodybuilding, but you don't have to be a bodybuilder. But you must train every day. Okay. So you think, what? This is nuts. Again, most of us don't do anything physically, so we can train every day. Not to failure, not beast mode, but we should definitely do something, right? We humans are meant to move. Okay. So it can be 20 minutes, can be 30 minutes, and you will see after a week of applying simple like vitamin D3, training, eating healthy foods, you'll feel better. I guarantee it. And you can just PayPal me later for that. How much protein should people take after they work out? It doesn't matter. Protein intake has to proceed on a daily basis. So there's no anabolic window. I mean, there is one, but it's 6 hours wide. So your post-workout, essentially, your pre-workout is your post-workout. You don't need to slam a protein shake down right after you worked out. There's absolutely no rush to that, So your daily calorie number, your daily protein intake is what you need to split over like whatever 4 meals. Timing of nutrients matters when you train 2 or 3 times a week. Otherwise, it's not that important, okay? What else do I have? The difference, so last week we talked about MK677. What's the difference to GHRP? Well, so GHRP or growth hormone releasing peptide is injectable, right? Whereas MK677 is used orally. So the advantages are similar, better skin, better sleep, less joint pain, joints heal quicker, collagen build up, some fat loss, some muscle gain. Again, those are essentially, there's a reason these drugs are not FDA approved, okay? They haven't even made it to level 3, they're still at level 2. So if you want to take them and you find a doctor that can prescribe you, that's up to you. All I'm telling you is like the FDA, repeat after me, has not approved them yet. They show promise, okay? But it's very early stages for that. Should you compete? I don't know. Should you? Yeah, that's a good question. I think anybody, before they compete, I'll give you one piece of advice. Go to a show and look at the competitors from close up. Because, so when I started to think about competing, that was in like maybe March of that year, I was like, oh yeah, I'm ready. And then this guy in my gym, thankfully, told me to check out the show, which was in May. And I went there and I was like, I'm light years away, light years. So then I competed in winter, like all the way in December, and I did well. So competing, I mean, I feel like it can be done if you have the potential, you should do it. But it shouldn't be done just because you want to present the best of you. It should be done by people who are actually competitive, because otherwise you're just holding up traffic, and that's very annoying if other competitors and spectators. So, it should be done. You should also compete to win, I think. I know it's the age of participation medals and all that, but I think people who go in there should actually have a legitimate shot of winning. So I always advise, like, go check out a show and then see where you stand in that. Cardi, does soy cause cancer? Absolutely not. Soy protein has no effect on breast cancer whatsoever. There is a tiny bit of research that maybe certain fats have something to do with that, but soy protein and cancer, there's no correlation whatsoever. However, soy protein isolate is a crappy protein that is basically being made by washing the soybeans with an explosive, so that you should stay away from. Okay? I think that's all I have for today. Anybody else has a question? I will let you go back to whatever you're doing. No? Everybody good? Okay, well, then I see you the Wednesday after Christmas. Thanks, guys.